Welcome back. It's Hour 2. I am Scott Chambers.
I'm Andrea Tice, and we are actually going to take another call from one of the attorneys at Alexander Shunnarah's law firm. In particular, we want to talk to him about a case that has developed in Alabama regarding a man who was on a Delta airline flight and was attacked in the face by a service dog. Are you there, Ross Massey?
I am here. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, Ross. Welcome to Yellowhammer Radio. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks a lot for having me.
Oh, we're glad to have you on. I've seen this story. A guy from Alabama is on a flight. He's on a Delta Airlines flight, and the dog takes a bite out of his face. Like, that's sort of a weird deal. You don't expect that when you sit down on a plane, do you?
To say the least. And honestly, I think you're putting it a little bit lightly. From all the witnesses, especially the one seated right behind Mr. Jackson, and that's my client, Marlon, who was attacked by the dog. It was at least a 30-second ordeal with the dog repeatedly breaking away from people trying to restrain it.
Wow. So, Ross, when you as you're compiling and researching for this case, are you going after the people who own the dog or the airline? What's your angle on this?
Sure, and a lot of that will develop, of course, as the evidence comes in. But as of right now, we've put both the dog owner on notice of our representation, and we've done so with Delta as well. We've asked for certain things to be preserved, and right now we're just looking for information and, of course, answers. What we're trying to figure out is if Delta has a policy that dogs be on the floor, well, why was this 50-pound dog sitting in a man's lap for an extended period of time? And, of course, if Delta has a policy for the reaccommodation of larger animals, why was this dog, which witnesses say was at least 50 pounds, allowed to be free, unrestrained in the cabin?
Wow.
That's a huge chunk of dog coming after you and your face. How is your client doing in his recovery?
How is his health? Because I've seen the photos, and his face is just ripped up.
Yeah, Marlon, he's not doing well. I'll say this. He's getting some great care. I mean, he did have 28 stitches to his face. The dog initially struck and actually punctured right underneath Marlon's nose, went through his upper lip area, and then punctured, within his gums above his teeth. That's still bothering him. He's got some numbness throughout that area of his face, which has even affected his ability to speak the same way. His stitches have just been taken out. He's got a really bad gash also on the side of his face, which, by all accounts so far appears is going to scar. But he's going to have that monitored by a plastic surgeon to see if there's something they can help out with.
Our guest is Ross Massey with Alexander Shunnarah's. He's with the firm Alexander Shunnarah. And so I want to ask you, Ross, your client was just sitting on the plane. I believe this happened at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. He's from Alabama, but he was on a flight leaving Atlanta. Is that correct?
That's right. He's a Mobile resident, and Marlon connected there in Atlanta, and they were actually heading to San Diego. And Marlon has the window seat, and as he gets to his aisle, there's a large dog sitting in the man's lap. Of course, that's the seat that Marlon was assigned to by Delta. So shortly after Marlon crosses into the row and takes his seat and sits down, the dog attacks him.
So the owner of the dog has the dog in his lap. This is a 3-seat row, I take it. And
yes.
Marlon's on the far end by the window. The owner of the dog's on the aisle. The dog's in between.
The owner of the dog, unfortunately, the owner of the dog was in the middle seat.
Oh, so he's good grief. He's. I mean, airline flying can be claustrophobic as it with just plain old humans. Never mind another animal or entity on a person's lap. That had to be that alone had to be disturbing.
Oh, absolutely, and that's one of the major issues which touches a chord with us and has touched a chord with everybody else that's reached out to us. I mean, this isn't taking your dog to the park. This is an anxious, crowded environment. And what has to be done, it's just not enough for Delta to require that dogs be trained. There's got to be some sort of verification that these, animals that are coming unrestrained into the cabin are trained to handle that type of environment. And one thing I've got to point out, and this is when it gets a little bit into the details, but there is a significant distinction between a trained service animal or a psychiatric service dog, which has been through years of training and, gone into banks, gone into stores, gone into airports before even meeting its owner. That's a distinct level of training versus an emotional support animal, which is what we're dealing with in this case.
Exactly, because I don't think a lot of people realize that. I'm glad you bring that up. And that's one thing that kind of irks me is, yeah, there are dogs that spend many years in training that help with PTSD, that help with people that are not sighted. But a lot of people can actually go online and buy a vest and register a dog for emotional support animal for like 50, 75 bucks. And your dog is no different than my dog that sits there and licks himself on the front porch all day. There's not a difference.
Right. And for that matter, they can apply it to something beyond a dog. I mean,
Right.
some people apply it to birds and crazy things like that.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why I believe so many people are interested in this case, because it's also about the other 99% of paying customers to know that the dogs on the plane are safe and anybody sitting next to them is safe. And one thing I should be safe to point out is, with respect to Marlon's situation and then the dog that attacked Marlon, of course, lots of information about that dog's training, that dog's prior behavior, that dog's necessity, and all that is to come out. But what this case has shed a light on is the lack of proper policy and then policy enforcement that we have in place. It is rather easy, and I found websites that you're talking about where you answer 10 questions about your discomfort level and how your dog makes you comfortable, and in the mail you get a certificate saying that your dog is an emotional support animal, and it's even got its name on it for you.
Yeah.
So there's a major distinction between the service animal that is trained and the emotional support dog.
Absolutely.
Well, I can see two advantages of this case getting headlines and press coverage. One would be that it informs parents in particular to be aware of these situations where just because it has a vest and an official-looking cover, be always on the alert and on the offensive to protect your kids, because you just don't want this happening to a kid. And then the other thing would be the airlines clamping down on their policy and really getting much more stringent on who gets by with bringing these animals onto a plane. I mean, wasn't there a woman not too long ago who brought a pig onto a plane because she claimed it was a therapy animal?
Yeah, you can go register your snake, Andrea, as an
great.
emotional support animal.
will
And if
not.
you do it, I'm never going to talk to you again. Ross, I do have a serious question here, and my stupid joke there almost made me forget it, but now I remember. The dog. What type of dog was this that bit Mr. Jackson in the face?
Well, I can tell you what's been reported, that it was a lab and bird dog mix, basically a lab pointer. Of course, that's also information that we will be seeking, as this case progresses. But by all accounts, it apparently is a 50-pound plus lab pointer mix.
Wow.
Okay.
And our producer was whispering in my ear and said, so basically it's a mutt. It doesn't have papers as far as being, from a purebred line or anything.
Right.
Yeah, it does. It raises a lot of questions, and I appreciate you shedding some light on this. And Mr. Massey, we appreciate you coming on to talk more with us about this story. And we send our prayers to Mr. Jackson and his family. We hope he's doing well.
Well, he appreciates that very much. He's gotten a lot of concerns, which we're very thankful for. And another thing I should point out is a lot of people in the community or across the country have reached out to us with similar stories, or even the actual service dog community has gotten behind this because they're very concerned that their dogs, with all that training, would be getting negative light from what may occur with emotional support dogs. So I just wanted to encourage anyone else with similar information or similar stories, things that have happened to them, please reach out to us at Alexander Shunnarah. I'm cataloging all of those situations, and it may not rise to the legal level of a cause of action, but it's certainly interesting for us to hear all the support and interest people have in this story.
Yes, absolutely. And we want, because there are legitimate service dogs that do real work and are effective, and they get minimized in all of this if the facts don't come out about what was really behind this dog and why it was certified and allowed on the plane. So we appreciate your work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Ross Massey, we appreciate you being with us. And if people want to get in touch with you guys there at Alexander Shunnarah, they can go to shunnarah.com. And if they need the phone number, you can look to the right or left if you're driving. There's a billboard somewhere with that number on it, I promise you.
Right. Turn on the TV or get in the car. You'll find
Right.
us, I promise.
Look up.
Absolutely. I saw Alexander at least 14 times on my drive to work this morning. No joke.
Yeah.
All right, we appreciate it, Ross. Thanks for coming on Yellowhammer Radio. Keep us abreast of this. I want to find out more as this progresses.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it and look forward to speaking with you again.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Take care. Ross Massey with Alexander Shunnarah Personal Injury Attorneys, and their number is 800-229-7989.